renamed product. So it doesn't just do reporting for Storage Operations Manager, it does it for the whole of Operations Bridge tools, hence the name. Some of the differences in SHR and OBR is that it's moved from a Sybase database to a Vertica database, and Business Objects has gone from version 3.4 to 4.1 Service Pack 6, which means there's a bit of extra functionality in there and it looks better. And also moving to the Vertica database means that it's a bit faster, scalable, and obviously we're using our own database. But what I'm going to focus on is how to create custom reports to get the value out of the product. So the aim is I'm going to do a demo which is more, it's a bit different. So rather than doing it on a high level, I'm going to assume maybe this is the second or third visit and the customer's asked for a specific insight into some information. And I'm going to show how we can create a custom report to combine both tabular metrics and graphical metrics in the same sort of view. So what I'm aiming to produce is something a bit like what I've got on the right there. And the idea is that I'm going to show you the functionality that we can do within the report if we create a a slightly complicated one, so that the report can be customizable. So we're going to touch on using things like sections, using filters so the reports are dynamic, using sorts and rankings so that we can access the information and make it look more appealing so that we can understand what's going on a lot easier. So that's kind of my aim, and I know I'm not quite filling the brief of putting down all the competitive sort of stuff, but I'm assuming this is kind of a demonstration, maybe 2 or 3 steps further. So it's kind of going to be a workshop type thing where I'm showing it, and it's going to be a quite complicated thing. So hopefully 40 minutes is enough time to do what I want to do. Has anybody got any questions at this point? Right, that's good. So what I'm going to do is I've switched to OBR, and I'm going to, and this is the process of what maybe somebody would do to create this report. So hopefully you'll see some of the functionality and the stuff that we can do. I'm not keeping it simple. I'm trying to get to an end result where customers can get the maximum value out of the data. So I've just got a template report that I'm going to start off using, just because it's got a nice header there. Don't worry about any of this at the moment, but you could start from scratch. So I've opened up an existing report just because it's got this structure on it, but there's no data really in it at the moment. And this is just it in view mode. And what I'm going to do is switch it to design mode. Then from design mode, the first thing that we need to do is we need to work on selecting what metrics we want in the report. So we do that by creating a query filter. So this little symbol here with a kind of database symbol and a pen next to it is how we create the query filter. So what I'm going to do is I've got an existing one that's not got much in it, but what you can do is you can have multiple queries. So you could add a query from all the universes. What's going on? Forget that. So I'm going to use the existing universe where I've selected a storage system reporting universe, and the idea is that I want to create a report that's for block storage, and we're reporting the capacity of storage pool sizes. So these are all the different metrics that we can choose from, and they're arranged in different folders, and we can go and open them up and search for different things, but equally there's a search pane at the top. So if I want to look for storage pools, I could type in pool, and it will open up all the metrics that have got the name pool in it. But rather than doing that, I'm going to kill that just for speed. And actually, let's close that, and I'm going to do it again because I'm just doing this because it's the quickest way to close all the things. So here's, at the moment, I've just got the block pool name, and if I look in this folder down here, I'll make it a bit bigger by dragging the box across and maybe dragging the window here. So all these folders are where all the metrics are held. So I'm going to open up the block pool capacity statistics, and then within that we've got a folder with some of the metrics. So I've already got the block pool name, and I'm going to select the SOM source name. I'm just going to change the order and move it to the beginning there. Well, I'll move that one there so that I've got the SOM source name, then the block name there. And if I go in there, then I can add things like the tenant name. I can add in maybe the storage system name. I can add in maybe the storage system IP address. And the idea is that you go through and find the metrics that you want in the report. So we've already got the block pool name, and within the block pool name, I'm also going to take the block pool type, and I'm also want a capacity metrics. Now there's different metrics here. There's raw metrics, hourly metrics, and daily metrics. So what I'm going to do is just take the raw metric because I want the latest value. I don't want, obviously over time it's got how the capacity trends and tracks over time, but I just want the latest value. So if I take the raw, that's bound to have the latest value within the raw information. So I'm just going to use the total size, and that adds that into the query here. But as you can see, there's loads of different metrics. So this query is going to select all those individual elements and measures. But if I scroll down, there's a capacity filter here just to select the latest collection time. So in essence, that will just take the latest value for the total size for each of those block storage pools. So that's kind of the basis of the query that I want to use for this example. So if I click on run the query, that will then query the universe and pull those elements back based on this query that I've defined here. So if I run the query, that's completed. And what I'm going to do now is put some of those metrics onto this report here. And what we've got across the top is different tabs to do different sort of functionality. So the first one is doing things with report elements, next one formatting, next one to do with data, analysis, and the page setup. So because I want to add an element, I'm going to elements, and that opens up lots of subtabs here, and I'm just going to add a whatever you call it, a table. That's the word that I'm looking for. So if I just select on the table and then move into the space that I want it and click on it, it's kind of opened up a table here. There's no metrics in there at the moment. So that's the structure of the table that I'm going to add in. And one of the things that I can do is look down the side and look at the metrics that are available from the query. So if I click this available objects, these are the objects that I've pulled back from that query. So you can see the pool name, the source, some source name, the storage system name. If I open that up, the IP address that I selected, the tenant name, and within the block pool name, there was another value to do with the block pool type. So they're all available. What you can do is drag those onto here, but the easiest way, and this is new functionality with the latest version of Business Objects, is I can select the table and assign the data to the table. So what you do is you pick the values that you want to add in. So what I'm going to do is say I want the storage system name, then add another one, and say for the next metric in here I want the pool name, and then I'm going to say I want the pool type, then I'm going to say that I want the total size. So I'm just going to start with those 4 metrics that I've got from the query earlier on. I'm going to apply those to the table, and we've got some sort of result here. Now all the columns are the same width. The easiest way probably to change the width of the column is just to grab it and drag them out. So I'm going to do that so we can see the data a bit better. So, right, let's have a look what we've got. So, in my environment, I've got 3 different storage systems. So you can see the first storage system name here is called BRA 3PAR 720. Then there's another storage system here with this name called prod at the end. And if I keep going down the list, I might have to scroll to the next page. Then we can see the third storage system here. What we're doing is we're listing each storage pool name and the pool type and the size of that pool. So that's a first basic table report. But what I'm going to do now is do some things so that we can get better value out of the information that we're pulling out. So if I look at these tabs across the top, I'm going to switch to the analysis tab. And what I'm going to do is add a filter bar. So this filter bar comes here, and that means that we can make the output kind of customizable. It's a bit like using pivot tables in Excel, if any of you are familiar with that. So this is the filter bar here, but at the moment it's empty. So I'm going to select the metric that I want to filter on. So I'm going to select a filter of the storage system name. So at the moment it's the same information because it's showing all the storage systems, but I could say, well, I'm just interested in this storage system here, and if I click that, then it updates just to the pools that are relevant to that storage system. And if I go across, click the other one. So already, because we've got this dynamic filter in here, we're starting to show how customers can make best use of extracting the information and understanding what's going on. Now, the flow that I'm using is kind of the flow that people would create this from to begin with. So if I go back to the smaller storage system that's only got a couple of pools, one of the things that you'll notice is if you look at the pool types, they've got different names here. And what I can tell is I don't really want the parent concrete pool, and I don't really want the primordial concrete pool, because these are different types of pools that within the storage infrastructure kind of feed these pools. So I, as a customer, just to get the business value out, I'm just interested in concrete type pools, or rather I want to exclude primordial pools and parent pools. So the way that we can do that is go back and edit the query that we created in the first instance. And what I'm going to do is add some extra conditionality here to the filter. So if I just flick back, what I'm going to say is that we don't want anything that matches parent for the block pool type, and anything that doesn't match primordial as a block pool type. So we'll just end up with those two pools in the middle. So if we go back to editing it, I'll do the parent one first, and then we can do the primordial one afterwards. So all I do is for the block pool type value, I'm dragging that from there into the query filter type, it's still up there, by the way, as a value that we've selected as an object available for reporting. And I'm going to say there's lots of different functional operators here, like equal to, not equal to, matches pattern. But in the case, what I'm going to say is different from pattern. So I'm going to say different from primordial %. So that means if a pool type starts with primordial, it won't have that result in the objects of the query because it's filtering out that. So if it begins with primordial, it's got to be different from primordial. So if I then run that query, we should see how that impacts the results that I've got already. Oh, there we go. Why has it not worked? I must have done a typo. Primordial. Indeed, I've missed the I out. There we go. So the primordial pools disappeared, and as a customer, I also don't want any pools that begin with parent. So if I do a similar thing by going back to edit the query, and I will drag the pool type again across to there, and I'm going to add in different from pattern and put parent. And obviously it's combining these filters together with an AND logic, but you could double click on that and change that to an OR, but AND's what we need in this case. So I'm going to rerun the query. And there we go, we've just got concrete pools, and that same thing applies to the other storage systems, so it's done the same thing there. So that's starting to look good, but one of the things that we can start to do now is one of the aims that I wanted to do is create like a micrograph for the total size, and the way that I'm going to do that is via creating sections in the report. So if I go back to the report elements, we can add a section, and there's a section tab there, so I can insert a section, and what I'm going to do is do the section name in the first instance, because this is maybe how somebody would do it to begin with, here on the block pool name, just as an example, and we put that in there, and we can see that basically each one of those boxes now is a section, and the section name is the pool name, which is the same as that, and then it's just got that table on its own, and you can't quite tell why I'm doing this at the moment, but it'll all make sense in a minute. So that's interesting, and it appears to be doing what I wanted it to do. But if I switch from the view from a single storage system to all the storage systems, one of the things that you'll notice is some of these pool names aren't unique. So that same pool name is used on all three storage systems. And what I want to do is create a table just with one line in it. And you'll understand why I'm doing that eventually rather than me explaining it at the beginning. So what I'm going to do that is, rather than use the pool name, is I need something that's unique rather than a generic pool name. So the way that I can find something that's unique is if I go back to edit my query, And anytime you want to find the objects that you've selected within that whole universe, rather than having to search through it all, you can just click on it. So I was interested in finding something unique for the block pool name. So that's where I got the block pool name from. But you can see if I move down 2 places, there's something called block pool UUID, which is unique identifying number or ID. So what I'm going to do is select that metric into my query as well. And if I just rerun the query, I'll have that additional metric available to me as well. So now I've got that additional metric. It's over here available to me. And what I'm going to do is edit the report structure, edit the section. And rather than it being done on the pool name, I'm going to base it on the pool UUID because that's unique. So now they're all single because that number's unique. Now that number's just meaningless. I don't really want it in my report, so I'm going to delete it. It's just a mechanism to create a section. So I could delete the cell and the section, but I want to keep the section, so I'm just deleting that cell. So that's kind of doing what I want it to do a bit. But then the other thing that I want to do is I want to start ranking these and producing a bar chart for them. So let's start by adding the chart in with the line as well. So it's like a micro graph, so I'll have a graph in that single line. So if I just select column and place it where I want to place it, so I'll just put it here in this section, and I don't really want a up-down bar. I want a vertical bar a horizontal rather than a vertical. So I'm going to turn that into something different. So rather than, these are all the different chart types that we can do, I want a bar more like that, that's going to be across. So that's kind of the look that I'm trying to go for. So what we need to do now is select the chart and assign metrics to it. So I'm going to assign the data to this chart template. So I'm going to pick a value, and the value that I'm going to pick is that total size from my query. So if I then apply that, this is then showing a graph for each total size. Now, if I just switch back to this storage system here, the thing is, each of these graphs has got an auto scale on it, so that one's, and it scales it so that it's taking the maximum space. But what the idea is that I'm going to bring all these lines together, so I want the graphs to have the same scale. So that's to a maximum of 50, that's to a maximum of 100. So what I need to do is decide which is the largest value in all those tables and scale to that number. So what I need to do for that is to create a new metric, a new value. So if I go to my analysis tab, and then from in there, the data tab, I want to create a new variable. And I'm going to call this max total. So then what I'm going to do is select it as a measure rather than a dimensional object. A dimensional object's descriptional, measures numeric, and the formula is, I'm obviously taking the total size, but what I want is the max total size. So that's the maximum total size of, or in this case. So I'm going to say it's in, and in is it's the context. So what I'm going to do is use as a context the SOM source names. So basically, what that will do is it will collect, based on the section of the report, all the different total sizes, and it will pick the maximum one out. depending on what filters are in the filter bar at the top. So if I just do that as a first instance, and we'll kind of sort of see how this plays out. And the other thing that I'm going to do here is just make, oh, actually, is that going to work? Oh, that worked. So I can see the two that I'm working on a bit. I'll make it a bit bigger so we've still got the index at the values at the bottom. So what I'm going to do from the max is just add that in at the moment onto the end of my table, and this is showing how you can drag a value here, and you can see that for both this is one section, so it's pulled out the max is 7731, and for this one it's pulled out 77, so the highest value is that number out of the two, so that's that, and that, so that's kind of working. So what I can then do is, rather than auto scale, use that max value to scale both of those. So if I click on the scales and start editing them, we can see this is the auto scale here, so it's switched to the maximum value, switched to automatic, but I'm going to switch it to fixed, and you can use an equation. So I'm going to use the equation, and rather than it be 0 as the max value, I'm going to select the max total that I've created. I haven't selected it in. If I double click on it, I've got the equals in the wrong place. Going back, making a mess of it. So that's the equation. So now when I come out, they've both got the same scale. It's not quite done what I thought it was going to do. Maybe I shouldn't waste any time on this. But one of the things that you can do is round it up to a certain level. So I'm just going to click round, and rather than the top scale being 77.31, it's now 80. But you can see they're using the same scale. So then the other thing that I'm going to start doing is making these a lot smaller, because I said that I wanted micro charts. So I've worked out that I need it to be about 0.45 centimeters high. And the lines here are a bit weedy. There's a clever technique you can do to make the bars a bit thicker. So I'm just going to quickly do that. So what you have to do is
voice is missing. Is just my problem, or?
sorry, I must have, I don't know how
Okay.
it happened. I'm back. Hopefully
Okay.
you haven't missed too much.
No. Just a few
I
seconds.
must have leant on my mute button or something. I'm always doing it as it floats around on my desk. So I don't want these grid lines. So I'm going to just get rid of the grid lines a bit by just changing the color from gray to white so they're invisible. And this is starting to get like what I want it to look like. Now in the table, I don't really want this column anymore of the block pool type because it's not really showing me any value. So I'm going to delete that column. And this max value here, it's done its job. I can see what it's doing. I don't really want it here anymore. So I'm going to delete that column as well. Now what I'm going to do is add a column in, which I should have maybe just, so insert it to the right, and I need a nice big wide column here, maybe a bit wider than that. And the other thing that I'm going to do here is look at repositioning the whole table. So if I right click on that and then say align, I'm just going to move it more to the left. So at the moment it's 1.4 centimeters from the edge of the report. So I'm just going to say 0.5 from the edge of the report and apply that just to give me a bit more space. And then I'm going to drag that out a bit more, maybe to there. And then what I'm going to do is drag my micro chart into that column space there. And it's a bit long at the moment, so I'm going to resize that to the same size as the column roughly. So that's kind of what I'm starting to do. The other thing that I can do is I'm going to crunch the report up here. And I'm just, this is the trick of where it'll all start to make sense what I'm doing. I'm just going to copy the table and I'm going to paste it into the header bit here. And it won't make a lot of sense at the moment, but it'll all make sense when it comes together. So what I'm going to do with these structures is just remove the title here. So I'm going to delete the row, and then we're just left with the data in each section. So a section just repeats itself essentially. So then what I'm going to do is move that table to the top of the section. So I'm going to say 0 from the top of the section and apply that. I need to move that up there as well. So if I move the micro chart into the same position, so you can see what I'm trying to do. Oh, I'm not gonna. Let's move that all the way up to there. And then what I'm going to do with this is, you can't have a table without some elements in it, but you can get rid of the title. So I'm going to delete, well, what I'm going to do is, rather than use these variables here, is recreate the same title. So go storage system name. Oh, go block pool name and total size. I know it's in gigabytes and I should, I'll do it, gigabytes. Oh. And what I can do is merge those two together. Oh. Let's delete the title row. Delete. Row. And I'm going to position this in the same place as I did the other one. So when I align it, I'm going to align it to 0.5 from the edge. That's what I did the other table below. And that's just going to be my headings. So what I can do is give that maybe a different look and feel, because that's my recreated heading. So if I go to the appearance, I can select the color. Let's have maybe a gray, and maybe for the font, let's maybe have it bold and maybe have it white. I don't know. Maybe I need a different gray, a bit darker one. Apply. Okay. So that's what we're starting to do. I'm just moving this section so that it starts after the next title, and there we go. Really, I should have maybe selected the background color for the report section there so that it looks the same. I don't know, appearance, color background, whatever it was, I don't know. It's a bit of a grey sort of colour. I'm doing it a bit of a rush. You can see what I've done, but I've not. If I had more time, I'd spend it so that it's the same colour as the rest of it there. So that's kind of how we can start to combine microcharts with tables as well. And I can start switching between the different storage systems. And we can actually, so that leads the eye to where the greater values are. But the other things that we can start doing is then putting maybe sorts on them as well. So when I defined this structure, if I make the section larger again, what I could do is I'm just going to edit the section. I should have done this first. How am I doing for time? Not too bad. So I'm going to select for the section and make it based on the UUID again. Actually, could I? Maybe I could just do it through this. Go to my analysis pane, and what I'm going to do, I don't know if this is going to work. Descending. Oh, I knew I should have. Section. What I've done is done something in a slightly funny order. So what I need to do is maybe delete this section, because what I want to try and do, and one of the things that you can do is switch the report to the design structure view rather than the data view. So here we can see that. I'm going to just move it down, and I'm going to add the section back in, and that's the micrograph here. Oh, I'm going to pull that. Oh, to there, and I'm going to insert a section again. Insert section, put it there, do it on the UUID again. But what I'm going to do this time is if I go back to the view, so we've got it with the data. Let me undo what I've done here. Oh, sorry. Don't know why it keeps doing that. So now that I've got this number in here into the title, what I can do, if I go to the analysis, is I can do a sort on it. So I can do it into descending order. So then when I switch to maybe one with more pools, you can see that it starts to look like that. Then when I remove that, and start to align it back up, so if I align it to the top 0 and I want it 0.5 from the edge because I've moved it around again, do that. That moves that to the top. I also want that back in there roughly. I'm doing it a bit of a rush. And I also want to highlight the section, shove that up to there, shove the bottom of the section up to there. So this is the kind of end result that I was trying to get to rather than keep messing around. I don't know how I'm doing for time. So I've got a list of all the storage systems names, all the pool names, and the size, and it's ordered by the size, and I've got a visual representation of the size there, and they're all to the same scale. And obviously that's for one storage system. You can have it for all the storage systems, so it's dynamic, and then it's listing the pools. So you've got the biggest one at the top, you can see which storage system it's on, its pool name and its size, and then a visual representation of its size. So you can start to go down, and then maybe you could say, oh, right, well, I'm only actually really interested in the smaller storage system here. And then obviously once we've done it, what we want to do is save the custom report. So I'm going to save it as a new name. So I'll just call it block pool size. So in summary, what I've done is I'm trying to show some of the advanced features of how you can create slightly more complex reports to mash together tabular and graphical information and make it dynamic with filters like the filter bar to make the information relevant to what a customer's trying to do to prove their business case. So the idea is, as soon as a customer starts to see this, they'll start to say, oh, well, can you show me this metric? Can you show me that metric? How do I do this? And at that point, you can take a stand back maybe and say, well, what do I need to show you one or two things to prove the value of the product on the useful things that we can do and how we can do them? So the idea is if you show customers how they can do things and make it so that the information is usable and useful and relevant to them, then they start to buy into using the tool, because in that way they can actually visualize getting the value out of the tool. So I hope that was okay. My idea was to kind of do something different and maybe show people something maybe that they haven't done before, and maybe give them insight into how to do things and give them the confidence maybe to start to do these things with customers in workshop or POC or demo type environments. I'm going to stop there if there's any questions.
Okay, Alan, great demo. This is a really demo focused your session, and I appreciate a lot this. But before of my comments, I want to hear from the team. No comment.
I've made them all fall asleep.
No, I don't think so. I see a thanks from Riyadh. Riyadh, are you able to talk also?
Yeah, so this is Felix. I thought also it was good to really have the demo focus here. This was all new to me, so it was a valuable session for me, definitely.
Aya is writing, we made use of the session here. Good.
Yeah, that was my intention, maybe to try to show people something that would be useful to them.
Yeah.
As well, rather than maybe necessarily follow the customer brief and the rest of it.
Yeah. So waiting for other comments on the team and my comments. So first of all, I appreciate, as I told you, I appreciated that you really focus your session on the demo part. But also I appreciated that you gave us a sort of agenda of your speech, because at the beginning you introduced the overall scenario, and also you told us why reporting is important for the business. So that's, I appreciate that. Then I saw that you also put some reference to the sales process. We are here to show this because we have already done this and that. So it's a contextualization of the demo in with respect to the sales process. So very good. I also appreciated a lot the tell, show, tell techniques you used, and this is really important. And also I see that you prepared a lot the demo, so very good also for the preparation. And at the end you gave the summary. This is the most important part many times. So if you have lost someone during the demo, at the end you get back him with the summary. So just a couple of comments. So I didn't hear about competitive traps, but maybe I missed it because I don't know the solution. And
no, you didn't hear that, but then I kind of thought I wanted to make sure I had time to do what I was trying to show, so I kind of assumed that it was like 3 or 4 touches in, so at that point maybe we'd already covered all that.
Okay. Okay, and so that's all for me. So great job. Any other comment? Nope. Okay, I stop